This might be a little. Are you all ready?
Yes.
Yep.
So this guy Pythagoras, he's probably one of the first most famous mathematicians. Shut the fuck up!
Don't sass me, woman.
And he came up with a pretty famous equation.
Baby maker.
You may know it, related to triangles. That x squared plus y squared equals z squared. It's the Pythagorean theorem.
Yes.
Ooh, ta-ta. Ooh, okay. So that's great and all. And, you know, he kind of like cheaped off he cheated from a lot of his friends, which is actually unbeknownst to most math people. And he also stole from a lot of people, which is pretty, ooh, shit. And we don't really know who he stole from, so that shit might not be Pythagoras.
That's why he's drunk math.
But actually, the world burnt down around him. That's all kind of history. You can discover that later on. And moving on to Euclid. Euclid's a fascinating character, Egyptian, right? Take this all with a grain of salt. So, an Egyptian fellow, he wrote a book called The Elements. This is most fascinating because to this day, the elements are debated, which is actually a very fascinating thing. So there's this idea that given any system, I know this is beyond your reach, everyone.
Explain it anyway.
Beyond your horizon, there's always something you can't prove, which I'll touch on later. But so you need to make some assumptions to begin with. So Euclid made 5 assumptions. He made an assumption that given 2 points, you can make a segment of a line between the two. That's 1. 2 is that given 2 points, you can make an infinite line between them. You could extend that segment for infinity. That's 2. 3, you can make a... Oh, shit, if I can get this. Oh, shit.
Maturo can't explain geometry.
I can't explain geometry. Okay, I hate geometry. Okay, so given a line and a point, you can make a circle. That's a fucking circle. 4 is... Oh, shit. Shit.
That's a fucking circle.
Something else that's relevant. But 5.
What about a square?
But most importantly is 5. Most importantly is 5 because 5 says that given a line and a point, there's only a unique line that passes through that point that is parallel to the other line. And now you might say, Jenna, oh my god, Andrew, that's fucking obvious. And I would say, of course, Jenna, that's of course obvious. But most important to all is that for 400 years, people have been trying to prove that axiom, that thing he assumed using the other 4 assumptions, which is particularly entertaining because even to this day, 500 years later, people are trying to prove that one thing. So next up, Descartes. Descartes is interesting because he's a child genius, right? He was a French guy, and he kind of got really sick and tuberculosis.
Not as good as Foucault.
Probably true. Okay, so he got really sick. He was laying in bed for a long time, and all of a sudden he was looking at the ceiling, and he saw a fly. This is rumored to be the truth. So he saw a fly flying around, right? He was like, man, if only I could plot when that fly is. Quote. Who the fuck else would think that, right? Wow, okay. So he devised this Cartesian system named after the aforementioned dark K. To plot a point on a axis and yada 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 for whenever a object is on a dotted line. Okay, so it's the beginning of calculus and everything that comes forth. Okay, so moving on. Oh, jeez. Euler. Everyone pronounces his name wrong, right? Including me. I'm intoxicated. That's fine. So Euler, not Euler, Euler is a fascinating fellow because he fucking did everything. He studied everything there was to study, and I'm so jealous. I'm really not jealous, actually, because he covered everything. So Euler studied everything, and most importantly, I think one of the most beautiful things he ever did was his Euler's theorem, and his identity, most importantly, which was inscribed right here, is that e to the pi I minus 1 equals 0, which is most miraculous because it incorporates 5 of the most predominant
What are you doing?
numbers and or
that
letters
responsible?
in all of mathematics.
That's
in
true.
one equation. So you've got
No,
e
it
pi
is
I,
not. That is a
negative 1 and 0
complete flat-out
all
lie.
in the same
Chrissy,
equation,
you
which
are a
is
terrible, terrible person, and you need
absolutely
to accept the fact that
astronomically
everyone's
important. It's
If it was your
derived
house,
using
would you be upset?
power
Except Jesus
series,
in
and
your
I won't
heart.
bore you with that. So moving on, Gauss.
I can't
This
believe
is
you
gonna be
don't
quick and short. I hate Gauss. I hate Gauss so much.
do the vibes.
Drink.
Okay.
Let's do the vibes.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Are you
Explain Gauss.
What's wrong with Gauss?
Gauss is a genius. He was really that guy who was like, oh, you didn't solve that? I
That's
solved
the
it.
beauty. She's
Every day of the
she's
fucking
really
week.
phenomenal.
Because, man, he solved everything. And honestly, I gave a presentation like 2 months ago, and I found out that one of the presentations, the theorems I gave, had already been solved by Gauss 2 months. Sorry, 2 months. Actually, 200 years earlier. And I didn't know. So I just
I'm not a fucking
kind
animal.
of, slipping under the rug.
Just go with it.
Yeah, I'm not.
So
I'm
there's
not
actually a
saying-
competition to who can come up with the most
Somebody down there.
solutions, the most proofs to one of Gauss's theorems right now. And there's actually probably 300 or 400 competitors. It's amazing. It's actually quite unbelievable how many times you can solve one proof. And so actually he's known for, you can see it right here, all the bullshit I put up here is linear algebra. It's Gaussian elimination. So you solve a fucking equation because Gauss is all that fucking shit. So moving on, Cantor. Cantor's a fucking douchebag. We all hate Cantor. Cantor has solved everything and anything. And man, if there's any time that somebody was like, no, it was fucking Cantor, because he came up with an exception to everything. He came up with this one great set called the Cantor set. Now, if you have any time, anyone, look it up, because it will blow your fucking mind, and it will measure is infinite and zero and it's uncountable, and it just blows your fucking mind. And Cantor really just came up with a lot of it that actually devastated most mathematics, which is actually overseen, I think, most of the time. Because most mathematics covers a lot of stuff with the Lebesgue bullshit, which actually is not up here, will be eventually. But Cantor actually comes up with a lot of the counterexamples that accompany the Lebesgue bullshit. So that's all you can hear. Moving on. So Poincare. Now Poincare is an interesting figure. Now I wrote Lorentz transformations up here because that's kind of something he contributed to. But I think most importantly, actually, isn't the Lorentz transformations? It's actually the shape of the universe. He had something called the Poincare conjecture, which is a conjecture about the isometries and of 4-dimensional, 3-dimensional, etc., etc. Which was actually solved within the last, I want to say, half-decade. And actually, the winner turned down the $1 million prize, which is actually pretty fucking awesome, man. Go math. You should have shared it for the rest of us, but he turned down all and said, anyhow, this conjecture that he had was one of the 7 most important conjectures of our time, which deserved $1 million apiece. More so is that his conjecture was relevant to the shape of the universe. He was studying isometries and shape relevance amongst possible existence and does ... work for everyone?
No, keep going. No.
So he did ... and
How
he
did he-
proved it. Most importantly,
What
he
is the
proved
shape
it.
of the universe?
It's really complicated. But he proved what it cannot be. And most importantly, when they said, holy shit, you did this, and he offered them the $1 million prize, he was like a boss, he was like, no, sir. No, thank you. No, man. I don't need that. He fucking turned it down. What a boss. You know, like an inspiration to us all. But I would take
That's pretty
money, 'cause
awesome.
He's not inspiration.
But then you can donate to charity.
We're getting the home run. Ready? We only got 3 more. Hilbert, he said, we must know, we will know. He's actually a brilliant human being who studied all of real analysis. And I just took a real analysis exam this morning. So I hate him, so I'm moving on. So Gödel, most importantly, actually, probably one of my favorite persons amongst all this. Gödel
It's terrible. It's
is a German mathematician who I wrote incomplete here because he made this theorem called the incompleteness theorem, which is so fascinating, which says that you can't prove anything given a certain number of assumptions. So no matter, the implication is no matter how many assumptions you make, there's always something you can't prove, which is actually a groundbreaking proof in all of mathematics that, all mathematics has been about proving something given something.
Oh, you were here just 2 weeks ago.
And the idea is that if there's something you want to reach for, there's some way to reach it, and you can build up, and you can complicate things, and you can construct things, and you can deconstruct things, and you can dismember things. Any way you want, you can get there. But the idea is that there's always something you can't get to,
fucking hit me.
which is
Okay, I'll arrest him. Okay.
which is mind-numbing, actually, which is actually relieving to a lot of people. There's always something you can't prove. And furthermore, that given any complete system, outside of all this shit that I've been talking about, there's always something you can't prove, which is philosophically very important, very life-changing for all the philosophers.
Everybody's full of shit.
It's really, actually, quite altering.
Their flavor full of shit.
Who's
I
next?
think you get the pressure. Okay, then. I think last amongst us is the great Turing, Alan Turing.
What's that?
Not nearly as great as Gödel, thank you, but Turing did something that he evolved with. He's probably the most modern amongst us. In the 60s, he incorporated all of mathematics with computer science. And he did something where... Stop touching his nuts. Okay,
Drink more faster.
Motherfucker chug, motherfucker chug.
I'm really excited for you to just get in there and just
so what Alan Turing did was he came up with calculations to kind of comprehend whether, if you were receiving data, whether it was computer or not, which is kind of a revolutionary idea coming into the 20th century, coming into the 21st century. If you're 1950s, 1960s, etc., you're kind of like just beginning to be introduced to the idea that you're going to be encountering people who are no longer human, but computer. And so what he's most famous for is creating these systems of test and comprehension and things that people will bend and bow beneath in the expectation of whether they are human or not. And so basically, won't bore you too much, is that Alan Turing is known mostly for not only for randomness, is this a random number or not? That's in Series 2. You guys will hear all about that in Series 2. But also, mostly, is that are you a computer? So even to this day, people will play games, actually even like Halo and shit like that, competing whether or not this is...
You need to have them going down.
Whether or not...
Why do you still have clothes on?
Like we don't have time.
Whether or not they're competing against a computer or not. It's actually very fascinating. And I think that's
When did Turing live? Is he still alive?
I think he's still alive.
No, he killed
I think he's
himself.
hanging on to life.
He killed himself?
Turing?
Yeah.
Alan Turing? No, he killed himself because he was
When?
castrated by the English government.
What?
Because he was homosexual.
When
So
was
he
this?
Turing.
When? I didn't say who.
In the 50s.
Oh, in the 50s.
He killed
Okay.
himself because... I mean, it's actually a little controversial. He killed himself because...
Oh, a little controversial? This is very controversial.
No, whether he killed himself or he accidentally killed himself.
I'll have to Google this tomorrow.
But basically, he was chemically
Are you done?
castrated by the
I'm way done.
for being
Okay.
homosexual.